Now, from a left brain perspective, Professor Richard Dawkins at Oxford University or something, that's impossible. You're one of these charlatans. But of course, from a left brain perspective, it's not possible. But when you realize the nature of reality, it is possible. Why? Because his daughter is an energetic construct on that level. And unless her father decodes her energetic field into a holographic representation he sees as his daughter, she ain't going to exist in his reality. Everything else in the room is, because he's doing that to everything else. But the hypnotist has implanted into the brain the belief that the daughter is not in the room. So just like in China, where they firewall off the internet, his brain gets firewalled off from decoding that field. So she doesn't come into holographic reality. She doesn't occupy what we call space. He's going to be able to see what's behind her, because in his reality, she ain't there on that frequency range we call the physical world. We think the world is physical. Let's come to that physical. Oh, it's so solid. Oh, yeah, walk into a wall, bang, it's solid. Don't tell me it ain't solid. But it can't be. It can't be, because it's made of atoms, scientists tell us. And atoms have no solidity. How can an atom that has no solidity make up this solid world? It can't. And it doesn't, because the world isn't solid. This is why when scientists have this bewildered conundrum between non-physical atoms making up a physical world, how can it be? Well, I can help them out. There is no physical world to make up. The atoms are part of the decoding process of turning vibrational fields and vibrational information into holographic form in our heads or in our minds. We make holograms, of course, in studios like this one. And for those who haven't come across it, what happens is you've got an object that you want to do a holographic photograph of. You have a laser beam. Part of it is diverted across the object you want to photograph. Part of the beam is taken away and hits this photographic film, where it meets the other part of the beam carrying the vibrational information of the image. It's like two waves in water coming and colliding. When you have, they call it an interference pattern in holographic terms. When you throw two pebbles in a pond, where the waves they make collide is a vibrational representation of those two stones, their weight, their size, and where they dropped in relationship to each other. And that's the same principle as holographic film. It looks like fingerprints and stuff. It seems to have no form, no clarity, but you then fire a laser beam at this and bingo. An apparently three-dimensional image of what's been photographed appears before your eyes, appearing to occupy space, but not. These are all holograms. Some of them, the best ones, can look as solid as you and me. These are all holograms with no space, no 3D, just the appearance of it. There's the Queen, holographic photograph of the Queen. Very appropriate when we get to the second half. Queen's a lizard. You're mad. These are not very good holograms, but you see how they could appear three-dimensional. Planets. You know, we can have three-dimensional things now on computer games. And that's what we're doing. Taking vibrational information and decoding it into a holographic world that appears to be out there but isn't. So in a decoded state, this is what the world looks like. In an undecoded state, they are energetic vibrational fields. This reality has a number of levels, the coded and decoded levels. So we're living in a virtual reality game, basically. of great sophistication. And when we know that, we can enjoy it. When we don't know that, we can become enslaved by it, and we have been. And scientists, it's funny you see, because these scientists, the left-brainers, there are now some real cutting-edge mainstream scientists in some parts of the world who've opened up the right brain, and they're very impressive people. But, and they're starting to get this now. But the left-brainers, I mean, it's like, you know in the pantomimes where someone's standing on the stage and someone, like a monster or something, comes behind them, and the audience is going, "He's behind you." And they turn round, and the other person turns round with them, and they're going, "There's nobody there. He's behind." It's like that with science, because they're trying to work out these realities, but of course, as they're trying to work it out, their brain is decoding it into a holographic, apparently solid world. But they can't get at it because everything they touch, everything they look at, boom, it's hologram, boom, it's hologram, it's solid, it's real. So this is why scientists have to open their consciousness if they're going to get to the deep levels that we're talking about today. The other great characteristic of a hologram is that every part of the hologram contains a smaller version of the whole. Extraordinary characteristic. So if you cut a holographic print, those wavy frequency fields, the interference pattern, into 4, and you fire a laser at the 4 pieces, you don't get a quarter-size part of the whole picture, you get a quarter-size version of the whole picture. Everything is a smaller version of the whole. And that is why this works and what it's based on, if people started to realize it. Things like reflexology and acupuncture and these other alternative forms of healing, they can find parts of the body, this is reflexology, acupuncture is the same, that reflect in different parts of the body, the bigger parts of the body, so they can treat the heart from a point on the foot or the hand. Different parts of the ear, you can treat different parts of the body from a point on the ear. Of course you can. It has to be like that because the body is a hologram, and so the ear is a smaller version of the whole in the way it works. We have this thing, this line that people say, "Oh, everything's as above, so below." Yes, because it's a hologram. So, this is why the human energy field is mirrored by the Earth's energy field, because it's a hologram, and every part of the whole, at all the different levels, is a smaller version of the whole. What we're living in is a holographic internet, as I call it. If you look at what we call the internet, which we use on our computers, the only place the internet exists in the form that we perceive the internet, websites and graphics and colors and texts, is on the computer screen. It's the only place it exists in that form. Everywhere else, it's electrical circuits, mathematics, on-off electrical signals, all the rest of it. Same with television. The only place that television exists as we perceive it is on the screen. Everywhere else, it's frequency fields, mathematics, and electrical systems. And it's the same with us. Jean Fourier, a Frenchman, he developed something called the Fourier transform, which allowed pictures to be turned into frequency fields, broadcast, and then decoded into pictures. That's basically what our brain is doing on a vastly more sophisticated level. So what is the matrix, this holographic internet we live in or think we live in? We are part of its projection. It is energetic information. That's what it is. And we decode that information, and what we decode and how we decode it decides our experienced reality. Decides what we experience. We are crystals, basically. And so often, of course, in receiver transmitting, you see the use of crystals. The membrane of every cell, and we have trillions of them, is a crystalline substance. DNA is a crystalline substance. This is the membrane of a cell. And electrical signals make these gates open and close, letting in what's good for the cell, keeping out what's bad for the cell, etc., etc. Which is why when we get involved in disruptive electrical and electromagnetic situations, these can open and close at the wrong times and lead to ill health. But we are crystals, and we are transmitter receivers of information. And this was an article on DNA that I read. From the characteristic form of this giant molecule, a wound double helix, the DNA represents an ideal electromagnetic antennae. Yes, of course it does. On one hand, it is elongated and thus a blade which can take up very well electrical pulses. On the other hand, seen from above, it has the form of a ring and thus is a very magnetical antennae. Don Juan, I think his name was, the shaman source of the Carlos Castaneda books, is quoted as saying this: "We are perceivers, we are awareness, we are not objects, we have no solidity, we are boundless, we, or rather our reason, forget this, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime." And we don't do that because we're not meant to. Society is structured to keep us there. And these influences, programming information, sense of belief, the poisons we get in food and drink, religions that mess with our minds and close down our awareness, education and all this other stuff, medical drugs are affecting the decoding of this information, what we decode, how we decode it, and what range we decode. And at the level of the real manipulators, that's coldly, calculatedly done to put us in a vibrational prison we call a world. Bewildered world, going through it. What the hell is it all about? I don't understand. This is symbolic of the world we live in. For a body, computers. And we tap into this World Wide Web, you might call the cosmic internet, the holographic internet. And it's not, this is symbolic, the wires between them, because it ain't like that. It's like this. This Brixton Academy has wireless internet. It's here, everywhere, around us. We can't see it. It's not affecting our perception at all. But if I tune this computer to that Wi-Fi wireless internet, on that screen will suddenly appear that internet, that reality. And what we're living in, where are we, is a holographic internet, and that information exists everywhere around us, and we're decoding it unknowingly, though not now, increasingly, into this reality we think is the world. And so you had that scene in the Matrix movie, the first one, where Morpheus says, the Matrix is everywhere. It's all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell, taste, or touch. A prison for your mind. And the Matrix is everywhere because it is like a wireless internet which we're decoding. And we can decode vast areas of this internet. Or, as they do in China, that internet can be firewalled off so we only access that which suits those in control. And that's basically what's happened to us, not least through genetic manipulation.